Welcome to episode 1 of ARK Survival Evolved Basic Tips and Tricks. In this series we are going to cover beginning tips and suggestions on where to distribute talent points, engrams, and more. We will begin at our character creation screen. At this screen you can customize your character however you please. My only suggestion is that you don't make your character too absurdly tall so that your head clips through low ceilings and doorways. While this has no real effect on the game, it'll bother you a lot if you decide to play in third person mode a lot and your character decides to clip its head through the ceiling. It's something I wish I had known on my first character, Stringbean Ben, whose head poked out of my roof like a shark's fin in the water. If you do really want to customize your character, I advise moving the sliders on the muscles and making your guy look buff, because that really has no effect on anything but how ripped you are. Another aspect of the character creation I'll touch on is that you want to use a name that other people on your server can call you by. Don't make your name Lord Scuttlheim Rhinebecker III or something very exquisite, because you want people to be able to type your name easily. So for my character, I'm going to go ahead and use Dodger. That's what I like to have people call me by. For spawning regions, you want to choose something simple. You're not going to want to pick something difficult, especially on the island up north where there's wolves and everything running around. If you're an alpha, you go in the hard locations and you'll die repeatedly until you finally give up after being eaten by wolves 50 times over. So we'll go ahead and spawn in at South Zone 1. After you're done clutching your wrist like your Coyote Peterson being stung by a bullet ant, go ahead and start picking up the loose rocks on the beach. You'll need these stones to craft basic materials in ARK. After you've picked up enough stones to fill your pockets, go ahead and start beating the shit out of some trees like you would in any other survival game. Once you have enough materials, go ahead and craft a stone pickaxe by pressing E over the blueprint. Now we can begin the basic survival tips. So go ahead and drag the pickaxe into whatever toolbar you want. This way, when you click 3, it'll bring out the pickaxe as fast as you need it to. Go ahead and level weight, because in early game you're always going to need weight as you accumulate a lot of resources very fast. I typically like to unlock the hatchet and the spear in the engrams tab just by double clicking on them, and then going to the crafting tab you can hover over them to see which materials you need to build these. Now that we have a stone pickaxe, we can go ahead and hit ourselves a rock in order to get the flint needed to make a hatchet and a spear. Now we can begin the basic survival tips. So go ahead and drag the pickaxe into whatever toolbar you want. This way, when you click 3, it'll bring out the pickaxe as fast as you need it to. Go ahead and level weight, because in early game you're always going to need weight as you accumulate a lot of resources very fast. I typically like to unlock the hatchet and the spear in the engrams tab just by double clicking on them, and then going to the crafting tab you can hover over them to see which materials you need to build these. Now that we have a stone pickaxe, we can go ahead and hit ourselves a rock in order to get the flint needed to make a hatchet and a spear. One quick tip here for you guys is if you're trying to get these crafting requirements to pop up when you hover over the engram, go ahead and click toggle tooltips. That way when you hover over them it'll show you the crafting requirements still needed to craft that product. In this case, I still need some wood and some fiber to make some more spears. In order to get fiber, go ahead and find bushes and hit E on them to collect them. One thing I would have liked to know when I was trying to collect a bunch of fiber in the beginning is that when you come to a fresh bush, just click E once and hold it, and it'll collect until the bush is gone. You don't need to spam it 3 or 4 times in order to collect it. After you've collected enough fiber, go ahead and craft a spear and your stone hatchet. What I advise is crafting a few stone spears, just spears, because the spears do in fact break on use at random times, which is very annoying. As you craft more spears, you'll be unlocking more engram points. I advise putting your points into cloth shirt and cloth pants, as these help with a little bit of the insulation on the beach when it gets too hot and too cold, as well as providing a very minor amount of armor. After these have finished crafting, go ahead and hover over them and hit E to equip them, and they'll go ahead and put it on your guy. If you do have more points, like I said earlier, I would advise putting all of them into weight, at least in the early game, because you're going to accumulate a lot of items, and you're not going to have a lot of weight. The next things I would unlock are Thatch, Thatch Foundation and Storage Box. The requirements to build a thatch foundation aren't very expensive, and they do give you quite a bit of experience early game. So if you really want to level fast, you can go ahead and start placing a bunch of thatch foundations. Now that I've collected enough materials to make myself a couple thatch foundations, I'm going to go ahead and hover over the thatch foundation and click A. This will make it so it crafts as many as it can with the amount of materials I have in my inventory. In this case, it's making 6. As it starts to craft them, you can see I already gotten a level from them. I'm going to go ahead and place it on the ground. If you'd like to, you can go ahead and put the thatch foundation inside of it to destroy it, and it'll give you, I believe, half of the materials back needed to craft the foundation. This way you don't waste any materials, and without too much effort you can keep crafting thatch foundations to level yourself as fast as possible. I'd recommend doing this until you get to a level that you can craft a bola or a club. So we're going to go ahead and do this till we get to level 9. After you hit level 9, you'll notice you've accumulated a lot of engram points. If you haven't been spending them already, I'd advise putting it in the pestle and mortar, a simple bed, and a bola. After you've learned all that, you'll also have accumulated a lot of berries. For the beginning of the game, you don't really need stem berries. The only ones that are important are the narco berries and the 3 other colorfuls, yellow, red, and blue. I go ahead and I drag these into my toolbar because they're a great beginning food if you don't have anything to kill a dinosaur with. So put those in your toolbars and you can hold down the buttons to eat those very effectively. Keep the mayho berries because those are good for taming later on and you'll need those. Narco berries are for taming as well, and you'll also need those. I'll explain those in a little bit. So after you've learned the bola engram, you're going to want to go ahead and check out the materials needed. You'll notice that you need hide for that. In order to get hide, you're going to have to go around and kill some things. Luckily, there's a dillo nearby, and it is low level. Careful for the dillos because they have an acid spit, and if it hits you in the eye, it will blind you for a little bit. Harvesting in the early game is very important. I suggest only harvesting dead bodies with the hatchet, because this grants you the most hide yield from dead bodies. This brings up another important fact in that if you haven't figured it out already, wood you get more from hatchet swings, and thatch you get more from pickaxe swings. This also corresponds to stones and metal rocks and dead bodies. So from stones, a hatchet is going to give you, sorry, I should bring out the hatchet. A hatchet is going to give you more stones than it will flint, and a pickaxe is going to get you more flint than it would stones. Another important thing to note is that these round river rocks, that's what these are called, are going to give you a small amount of metal yield, which in the early game is very, very helpful. Mining metal also gives you a large amount of experience. But with the metal comes a lot of weight, so what you want to do is craft yourself a storage box, because this is going to help you store the metal while you go out and kill other things to level up even faster. After you get a storage box, go ahead and put any valuables in there that you don't want to lose. I recommend putting in metal, maybe some seeds if you're planning on planting them very early in the game, and your hide if you don't want to lose that as well. As I mentioned earlier, we were trying to get to level 9 because we want to unlock the bola. We finally have enough materials to craft the bola after killing the dillo, so we're going to go ahead and make 2 of those. Not only are the bolas good for early game hunting and fighting, like fighting that parasaur across the water, because they are able to lock them down and keep them from moving while you stab them repeatedly in the eye, but they are also good for defending yourselves if any other aggressive animals start coming towards you that are small enough to bola. For right now, we're going to wait to use the bolas, because we're going to show off taming in a different video, but for things like a turtle or parasaur like I showed earlier, they're great for stopping them from killing you, or from getting away I should say. Things such as lystras are easy to kill for hide early on, and as you can see, my spear broke from attacking it twice now. So if that happens, keep mashing the button that was on your spear, and if you have enough materials, you'll make another one to help you kill animals. But as you can see from this video, spears are trash. And while they're good for killing things really early, you want to get those off. You want to get off the spear as soon as possible. So as you can see, I just leveled up again, so we're going to hit level 10 now, and this is a very important level because this is where we unlock the bow. Go ahead, unlock the bow and arrow, and if you drag this stone engram, you can drag engrams, crafting engrams to your toolbar, you'll see that it still glows white. That means that we can craft some stone arrows. This is also a decent way of getting some experience early on, as well as being able to use the arrows. So go ahead and mash that as many times as you can, but for the stone arrow, you're going to need flint, fiber, and thatch. I'm going to go ahead and craft myself 50 stone arrows, and I'll be back when I've got that completed. I've gone ahead and crafted myself some stone arrows, but what good are some stone arrows without a bow? So go ahead and make yourself a bow as well. And after that's done crafting, I'm going to go ahead and throw that in my toolbar, in addition to all the other tools I have. We'll let that craft. Cool, now that you have your bow, go ahead, load your first arrow in, and watch this thing do work. As you can see, it's already putting in a little bit more damage than the spear is while not breaking. This also was a higher level of Lystra than the other one, so it took a few more arrows. If you walk over the dead bodies, sometimes the arrows will give you, or sometimes the dead bodies will give you the arrows back, which is very helpful. Now that you've unlocked the stone, I'm sorry, I keep saying stone. Now that you've unlocked the bow, you can go ahead and fight bigger creatures as well. This is a parasaur like I was talking about before, a tech parasaur, which really don't have much significance. But if you swing your bola around and throw it at the tech parasaur, it'll stop him from moving. Now you have two options. If you don't have the bow yet, you can spear him to death. But what's going to happen in about 2 seconds is this thing's going to break and I'm going to lose the parasaur. Wow, not that time. Similar to most animals, you're going to keep wanting to collect with a hatchet. Tech dinosaurs don't give you anything different, so keep using the hatchet early game anyway. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to be able to attack larger dinosaurs and more stronger dinosaurs now that you have the bow and arrow. Things such as turtles, parasaurs, trikes, and other dinosaurs that are larger are going to be easy to take out with the bow and arrow. However, if you do decide to take on a trike, which is a triceratops, the three-horned thing, I can't find it right now, just be mindful that they do not take damage, or they take reduced damage if you shoot them in the head. You want to shoot them in the foot, or any other unprotected part of their body in order to do maximum damage. I'm going to try and find something larger to attack here, and I'll be back when I find something. Okay, so here we have ourselves a stego. And before you attack this thing, you're going to want to make sure your stamina is regenerated. So sit here, wait for your stamina to regenerate, and make sure your bow is in a good spot to where it's not going to break on in the middle of the fight. Make sure you have enough arrows, and go ahead and attack the stego. Similar to the trike, they also have a spot where you do not want to hit them. Don't try and hit them in the spines and the back. Just keep kiting them out until you eventually kill them while shooting them in the head. If I haven't stressed it enough, it's very important not to mess with things that are going to kill you, especially if you haven't placed down a bed yet. Otherwise, you're going to die and lose all your stuff and have a hard time getting back, and this really hinders your progress. Another thing you want to avoid is when you're kiting things like the stego, not to kite them near something of a similar species. So since I kited this stego near another stego, it's going to become aggressive to me, much like the other one was. I haven't checked the level on this one, but I'm assuming I can kill it because it's gotten itself stuck in a tree. After years of development, it's pretty difficult to figure out bugs like this, but we use them to our advantage in ARK. So now that we have 2 big stegos done, we can go ahead and collect our arrows back as well as collect a bunch of hide. As short of a distance as it was just across this little river here, oftentimes you want to avoid going into the deep water as there are a lot of aggressive creatures even in the shallows. As you can see under the water here, there are manta rays, dolphins, and even typically piranhas that'll annoy the crap out of you as you're trying to cross the water. So if you can avoid it, do not go in the water. But stay near it so you have hydration if you do overheat and need to have water. Now that I have showcased how to fight creatures and what to fight, I'm going to go ahead and come back to our little structure we built here and showcase some other things that you may want to unlock to ensure that your survival through the night goes smooth. So I would recommend unlocking campfire as you're always going to need it, and then going down and unlocking pestle and mortar if you haven't already, spark powder, and narcotic. We're going to go ahead and build ourselves a pestle and mortar. After your pestle and mortar has been crafted, go ahead and throw it down on here. They're not too expensive to make, so it doesn't really matter where you put it. On here, you can put any extra flint, narco berries, and spoiled meat that you have. As you saw me unlock earlier, the narcotic, this is very important to use your narco berries on in the early game, as this will help you with taming in the later stages. So go ahead and throw all your blackberries on there and your spoiled meat, and craft as much narcotic as you can. A very nice feature into getting more spoiled meat is right-clicking on a stack of meat, splitting stack, and splitting all. This will make it so that in 1 minute and 42 seconds, all of these meat spoils, and I'll have more spoiled meat than I would have just from one stack. You can do this with any stack of meat, and it's also very helpful if you just go to the lowest stack, spoil timer-wise, and split it. One other thing that's cool is that you can drag by holding Alt one item over to the next stack, and this will help you spoil meat faster as well. So after you've got a bunch of spoiled meat, go ahead and stick it on here, and again, keep crafting your narcotics. You can also throw extra stone and flint on there to craft some spark powder, which will also be helpful for fueling your campfires, as well as making gunpowder in the later stages. So we're crafting spark powder and narcotic, and now we're thinking about survival through the night. If you can see, I already unlocked the engram for a bed. I would highly suggest putting a bed down on your little structure as fast as possible, so that if you do happen to die to something aggressive, you can always come back to your bed spawn. As this structure is just temporary, none of these materials are very expensive, and it doesn't really matter where you place anything. We're going to move into the forest a little bit later after we've tamed a dinosaur and are ready to get off the beach. But with that, I think that's the basics of survival for the first episode. The last thing I will tell you guys is that as it becomes darker, you're going to want to press tab or tilde, type gamma, and any number between 2 and 5. This will make it so it's brighter out, and in the nighttime you'll thank me later because you'll be able to see much better. As you can tell, it got very bright, and if you want to go back down to the base gamma, I do believe it is too. So that's all for this first episode. Let me know what you guys think. If you'd like it more unedited and just me running around doing all this stuff without the cuts, let me know. I can do that. Any other tips or tricks, you can go throw ahead in the comments, and I appreciate it.